I always knew something was changing between us. Maybe it was the way Noah's gaze lingered a second too long, or how my chest tightened whenever our hands brushed accidentally. But I never thought it would lead to this, a private meeting, just the two of us in the warden's office. The air felt heavier in here, thick with the scent of old books and faint traces of aftershave. Outside the cracked window, muffled laughter and distant footsteps echoed through the dimly lit courtyard. Everyone else was heading to dinner, but I was stuck here, shifting in the hard wooden chair across from him. Noah, the warden's assistant. The one person in this hostel who could get away with breaking rules and still have people eating out of his hand. He wasn't much older than me, just a year or two, but the difference felt vast in moments like this. He carried himself with the kind of ease I could never quite master. Leaning back in his chair now, arms crossed, his rolled-up sleeves revealing the freckles dusted across his forearms. He tapped his fingers against the desk, watching me like he was waiting for something. So, I started, clearing my throat when my voice came out rough. "You said you wanted to talk?" Noah tilted his head, studying me in that way that always made my skin feel too tight. I did. A pause. Then, with a faint smirk, "But you seem nervous." I forced out a laugh. "I'm not." A lie, obviously. He could probably hear the way my foot tapped restlessly against the floor. Being alone with Noah had always felt like balancing on the edge of something sharp, something unspoken. He leaned forward slightly, and I hated how it made my pulse jump. "I heard about the incident last night," he said, his voice quieter now, "and I need your side of it." My stomach twisted. Of course, it wasn't about me. It was about the hostile rules, the things we weren't supposed to do. But that didn't make the tension in my chest any easier to ignore. Noah's gaze stayed on mine, unreadable. And suddenly, I had the unsettling feeling that this conversation wasn't just about rules at all. I knew Noah before he became the warden's assistant, before he had the authority to call me into meetings like this. We weren't exactly friends back then, more like people who kept finding themselves in the same spaces. The ones who stayed behind after study sessions, who ended up sitting on the same worn-out couch in the common room late at night, too tired to sleep but too wired to leave. Noah had a way of making himself at home anywhere. He'd stretch out on the armrest of a chair like it was made for him, throw casual remarks into a conversation like he'd been a part of it all along. He was easygoing, effortlessly charming, the kind of guy everyone liked without trying. And me? I wasn't like that. I kept my head down, did what was expected. I didn't get in trouble, didn't take up space. If I was in a group, I was the one listening more than speaking, the one fading into the background while others filled the silence. But with Noah, it was different. Maybe because he never let me disappear. He had this habit of pulling me into conversations, teasing me just enough to get a reaction. "You always overthink everything," he'd say, nudging my knee under the table during late-night study sessions. "You should just say what's on your mind for once." Or, you make that face when you're trying not to laugh, right? It's kind of adorable." The first time he said that, I rolled my eyes and told him to shut up. The second time, I didn't say anything at all. I told myself he was just like that with everyone. Playful, carefree, a little too good at making people feel special. But then there were moments that made me question it. The night it rained so hard the hostel roof leaked, and we were the only two left in the common room. I sat with my knees pulled up to my chest, watching water drip steadily into a bucket. He sat next to me, close enough that our arms brushed. He didn't move away. "Cold?" he asked, voice softer than usual. I shook my head, but then he reached out anyway, wrapping his hoodie around my shoulders like it was the most natural thing in the world. Little things I told myself didn't mean anything. Now, sitting across from him in the warden's office, I wasn't sure I believed that anymore. Noah leaned back in his chair, watching me with that unreadable expression that always made my stomach tighten. "I heard about the incident last night," he said. I swallowed, already knowing where this was going. "It wasn't a big deal," I muttered. Noah raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed with my attempt to downplay it. "You got locked out after curfew," he said, voice level. "And instead of calling for help, you climbed the side of the building like some action movie stuntman." I winced. Okay, when he put it like that, it did sound kind of reckless. But it wasn't like I had much of a choice. I had stepped outside for some air, lost track of time, and the next thing I knew, the hostel doors were locked. And I definitely wasn't about to knock and wake up the warden. Noah exhaled slowly, rubbing his temple like I was giving him a headache. You could have fallen. I didn't. That's not the point. There was something different in his voice, something I couldn't quite place. Frustration, yes, but also something else. Concern? The thought sent a strange warmth creeping up my neck. Noah stood abruptly. Come with me. I frowned. Where? He didn't answer, just grabbed the keys from the desk and walked toward the door. With a sigh, I pushed myself up and followed. I expected him to take me to the warden, to deliver some official punishment. But instead, he led me down the dimly lit hallway, past the student rooms, past the common area, and then down a narrow flight of stairs. The basement. My steps faltered. Are you planning to murder me in the storage room? Noah huffed out a quiet laugh. You'd like that, wouldn't you? I rolled my eyes, but my heart was beating too fast. He unlocked a door at the end of the hallway and pushed it open. Inside was a small, slightly dusty room filled with old hostel supplies. Extra mattresses, folded chairs, stacks of worn-out textbooks. A single overhead light flickered as it warmed up. I crossed my arms. Okay, what are we doing here? Noah turned to face me, and suddenly the air felt different. Thicker. I don't want you pulling stupid stunts like that again, he said, quieter now. If you ever get locked out, you call me. Understand? I stared at him. You brought me all the way down here just to lecture me? His jaw tensed. No, I brought you here because I need you to hear me. Something shifted then, something unspoken but heavy between us. I could feel it in the way he stood too close, in the way his fingers curled slightly at his sides like he was holding something back. I had spent months pretending I didn't notice these moments, the way his hand sometimes lingered on my arm, the way his eyes flicked to my lips when he thought I wouldn't notice. And now, in this too small space, I couldn't pretend anymore. I exhaled sharply. Why do you even care? Noah's eyes darkened. You know why. I did. And that terrified me. Because if I acknowledged it, if I let myself believe, even for a second, that he meant what I thought he did, there would be no going back. The silence between us stretched, taut and electric. Then, Noah took a step closer. Say it, he murmured. My pulse pounded in my ears. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But instead, I turned away. I should go. Before I could reach the door, Noah caught my wrist, gently, but firmly enough that I stopped. His touch burned. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Noah. He shook his head. Don't run from this. I wasn't sure if he meant the conversation or the way my heart was practically clawing its way out of my chest. But it didn't matter. Because the truth was I wasn't ready. Not yet. And maybe he wasn't either. So instead of answering, I pulled my wrist free, opened the door, and walked away. I should have felt relieved when I walked out of that basement room. Instead, my chest ached with something raw and unresolved. Noah's voice echoed in my head, low, insistent. You know why? I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the way he had looked at me, like he was waiting for something, like he was waiting for me. And maybe that was the worst part, because he wasn't wrong. I didn't know. I just didn't know what to do about it. The next evening, I found myself in the common room, staring blankly at my laptop. The hostel was quieter than usual, most people out in the courtyard enjoying the cool breeze. I told myself I was working on an assignment, but my mind was stuck in an endless loop of what-ifs and should-I-haves. I didn't even hear Noah approach until he dropped into the chair across from me, setting down a cup of tea with a quiet clink. I glanced up warily. What's this? You look like you were thinking too hard, he said simply, sliding the cup toward me. Figured you could use a distraction. His voice was light, but there was something careful about the way he was watching me. I hesitated, then wrapped my hands around the warm ceramic. Thanks. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The quiet stretched between us, filled only by the distant murmur of conversation from the courtyard. Then, softly, Noah said, Are we going to talk about it? My fingers tightened around the cup. About what? His lips quirked in something that wasn't quite a smile. Come on. I looked away. I don't know what you want me to say. He exhaled, leaning back in his chair. I think you do. A heavy silence settled between us. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. I should have said something then. I should have admitted that the reason I had walked away last night wasn't because I didn't feel anything. It was because I did. But the words stuck in my throat. Noah watched me for a long moment, then stood up. Come with me. I frowned. Where? He didn't answer, just tilted his head toward the door. And against my better judgment, I followed. Noah led me to the rooftop, the hostel's highest point, a place we weren't technically supposed to be. The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of rain from earlier that evening. In the distance, the city lights flickered like scattered stars, casting a soft glow against the horizon. I shoved my hands into my pockets. Breaking rules again? Noah shot me a look. I figured you wouldn't mind. Fair point. We stood in silence for a moment, the only sound the distant hum of traffic below. Then, quietly, Noah said, I meant what I said last night. I swallowed hard. I know. He turned to face me fully. Do you? I let out a slow breath. Noah, I'm not asking for much, he said. I just want the truth. The truth. The truth was that I'd spent months pretending I didn't feel this. That the way my stomach flipped every time he smiled at me was normal. That the way my breath hitched whenever he stood too close was nothing. That the idea of losing whatever this was, us, terrified me more than anything. I felt him step closer. My pulse spiked. You keep running from this, he murmured. From me. I squeezed my eyes shut. I don't mean to. Then don't. When I looked at him again, his expression had softened. I know you're scared, he said. But I need you to know that you don't have to be. I let out a shaky breath. How are you so sure? Noah huffed out a quiet laugh. Because it's you. It was such a simple answer. And yet, somehow it was everything. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was me. All I knew was that 1 second, there was space between us. And the next, there wasn't. His fingers brushed against mine, tentative, hesitant. I could feel the warmth of his skin, the steady thrum of his pulse. I could have pulled away. I could have walked away like I had last night. But this time I didn't. Instead, I laced my fingers through his, exhaling a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Noah let out something that sounded suspiciously like relief. Then, gently, carefully, he reached up and cupped my face, his thumb brushing against my cheek. I leaned into the touch before I could stop myself. And then, finally, he kissed me. It was soft, slow, like he was waiting for me to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because the second his lips met mine, everything else faded. Every doubt, every hesitation, every stupid excuse I had made to convince myself that this wasn't real. It was real. It had always been real. When we finally pulled apart, Noah rested his forehead against mine, his breath warm against my skin. You okay? He murmured. I let out a breathless laugh. I think so. His lips curved into a small smile. Good. We stood there for a while, our hands still tangled together, the city lights flickering around us. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. The rooftop was silent except for the distant hum of the city. The wind had picked up slightly, ruffling the edges of Noah's shirt, tugging at my sleeves. I still hadn't let go of his hand. I wasn't sure I ever wanted to. Noah exhaled, his forehead still resting against mine. You have no idea how long I've wanted to do that. A breath of laughter escaped me, shaky and disbelieving. Yeah. He pulled back just enough to look at me. Yeah. His thumb brushed against my knuckles absent-mindedly, like he still wasn't sure I was real. I thought maybe I was imagining it. The way you looked at me sometimes. The way you'd get quiet when I got too close. I swallowed hard. You weren't imagining it. His lips twitched, something warm flickering in his gaze. Good. I wasn't sure what to do with myself now. The weight in my chest, the one I had carried for so long, full of doubt and fear, was gone, replaced by something lighter. Something terrifying in its own way. Because now it was real. Now there was no pretending I didn't feel this. Noah must have sensed my thoughts spiraling because he squeezed my hand. Hey, I met his eyes. I don't expect you to have all the answers right now, he said softly. We could take this slow. I exhaled, tension easing from my shoulders. You're really annoyingly good at this, you know? He smirked. At what? I waved a vague hand. At this. Saying the right thing. Making it easy to... I hesitated, biting my lip. To what? Noah prompted, his voice quieter now. I looked down at our joined hands. To trust you with this. Noah's expression softened, and without a word, he pulled me into a hug. I froze at first, unprepared for the way it felt, solid and warm, his arms wrapped securely around me. Then, slowly, I relaxed into it, letting my forehead drop to his shoulder. His fingers traced small, absent-minded circles on my back, and I wondered how I had gone so long without this. We stood there for a long time, the city stretching out below us, the moment impossibly quiet despite the world continuing on just beneath us. Eventually, Noah pulled back slightly, his hands settling at my waist. So, he murmured, "What happens now?" I huffed out a laugh. "You're asking me? You're part of this too, you know." His lips quirked. "Unless you've changed your mind?" I rolled my eyes. Not a chance. His smirk softened into something quieter, something fonder. Good. We stayed like that, standing too close, hands still lingering, the city lights flickering around us. And for the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel quite so uncertain. It felt like something I was finally ready to step into. With him, we didn't talk much as we made our way back down from the rooftop. But it wasn't the heavy silence of before. No unspoken fears or second-guessing. No tension holding me hostage in my own mind. Instead, it was the kind of silence that felt right. Steady. Easy. Every few steps, Noah's fingers would brush against mine, like he was making sure I was still there. Like he couldn't quite believe that I hadn't changed my mind. I wasn't sure how to tell him that I wasn't going anywhere. Not yet. When we reached the common room, it was mostly empty, the warm glow of the hostel lights making everything feel softer, quieter. Noah hesitated beside me, glancing toward the hallway that led to our rooms. His lips curved slightly. "So, do I walk you to your door, or—" I huffed out a laugh, shaking my head. "We live on the same floor, idiot." "I know." He nudged my arm lightly. I was trying to be romantic. I bit my lip, pretending to consider. Points for effort. He grinned, but then his expression softened, something quieter settling into his features. "I meant what I said earlier," he murmured. "We don't have to rush this." I nodded slowly, my fingers brushing against his. "I know," and I did. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I wasn't scared of what came next. I wasn't scared of waking up tomorrow and realizing this had all been some strange, impossible dream. Because Noah was still here, still looking at me like I was something worth waiting for. A comfortable silence stretched between us again, but this time I was the one to break it. I took a small step closer, tilting my head up slightly. "You know," I mused, "if you really want to be romantic, you could kiss me again." Noah blinked, then let out a startled laugh. "Oh, so now you want me to kiss you?" I rolled my eyes, but my face was already warm. "Don't make me take it back." His smile turned teasing, but his voice was soft when he said, "Never." And then, with a quiet certainty, he kissed me. It wasn't rushed or urgent. It wasn't a question or a test. It was a promise. A promise that we had time. That there was no finish line we had to reach overnight. That this us was something real. Something worth holding on to. When we finally pulled apart, he exhaled a small laugh. "I think I like this whole not running away from me thing." I grinned, nudging him lightly. "Yeah, well, don't get used to it." Noah smirked, linking our fingers together. Too late. And just like that, something inside me settled. We weren't perfect. We didn't have it all figured out. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. And I knew, whatever it was, we'd face it together.